Hello there, dear viewer. I hope you're very well today. As we approach the end of the year, I start to reflect on all of the releases that have come out in 2024. And one of the things I've been looking at is all of the box sets that have come out, because there have been plenty of great releases. It is just my luck that while I started to compile my list at the end of November and into early December, a whole load of new box sets have just been released, which are fantastic, including the one that I'm going to focus on today. The box set in question is this. It is the Béla Tarr complete filmography box set from Curzon. And I'm only just noticing now, looking at myself in the monitor, that this is almost the same colour as my jumper. So a bit of a wardrobe malfunction, but we will continue onwards. So anyway, this is a brand new box set from Curzon, and they have done a number of these director focused box sets in the past. The most recent one was the Peter Strickland box set, which I loved. And we've also had the Lars von Trier, Ruben Östlund, Wim Wenders, and this is the latest entry into that collection. You get 8 Blu-ray discs here with a bunch of films. Like I said, Béla Tarr's entire filmography, both feature films and short films. As far as I'm aware, everything is in this box. So I'm going to show you what you get inside this release, and I'll talk about the films included here. But before I do, I should probably talk a bit about this filmmaker, Béla Tarr, because I'm sure quite a few people will not be familiar with this particular filmmaker. And I would say that there's a certain attitude that needs to be taken when approaching the works of Béla Tarr, because his films are visionary, they are different, and they are slow. Now, slow is a word that most people would use as a derogative descriptor of a film. However, some filmmakers decide to intentionally make their films slow in terms of the pacing and maybe a lack of narrative, and there are reasons for this. A lot of it is to do with the atmosphere of the film and really absorbing the viewer into the world, into the story, and getting to know the characters. And this approach to cinema is something that is going to turn a lot of people away, and I completely understand that, because one of the films in this set is 7 hours long. So this is the kind of challenging cinema that we're talking about. Although if this is something that you have an affinity for, then I think there is so much here. This is a treasure trove of riches if you enjoy slow cinema and world cinema and want to explore more of what the form has to offer. And I'm sure many people will say, oh, that's just pretentious nonsense. Surely if a film is slow, whether intentional or not, it's bad. And that's fine to have that opinion. This box set will absolutely not be for you, and that's okay. But if you do give the films of Béla Tarr a chance, you could end up finding a new filmmaker that you love, because his films are very moving, they are philosophical, and it provides insight into the human condition, and that is what good cinema always does. I would say watch at least one of the filmmaker's films, just so you get acquainted with the style and see if it's for you. So now let's take a look at what you get inside this lovely box. And it is a lovely box because it's a rigid hard case. It has this nice textured effect, and it's very minimal in design. There's not much text on here. And for me, this kind of reminds me of a coffee table book. So it's the kind of thing you could have in your living room, and it looks impressive. When you first buy this, it does come with this little bit of card which kind of goes around it, and this just basically tells you everything that you get inside here, and it names all of the films. Inside this rigid hard box, there is another rigid hard box, so these films are very well protected. And you'll see on this box and within the box set this newly commissioned artwork for this set by artist Paul West, which I absolutely love. For some people this might look a bit menacing, maybe a bit disturbing. However, to me the films of Béla Tarr are quite dreamlike, and this quite reminds me of like a Rorschach test. And there's no escaping that the films of Béla Tarr can be quite bleak in the story and the setting and the content. So this artwork does truly encapsulate the feeling I get sometimes when watching one of these films. Anyway, inside this box, you get 2 more things. First of all, you get this big fold out digipack which houses all of the 8 discs in the set. And this is what it looks like. As you would imagine, it is literally 8 discs inside a case. But it's here that I could perhaps start talking a bit about these films. In the centre here you can see Satan Tango, and this was the film that I was talking about that is 7 hours long. It is a real challenge, and I think it's the most challenging out of all of these films because it's like a cinematic endurance test, and it's a film that I watched for the first time with this box set, even though it's a film that I have bought in the past and it's been on my shelf, and there just hasn't been the 7 hours that I've been able to devote to watching this. But of course, with this box set coming out, I knew that this was the right time. And that's probably a good time to mention that some of these discs, which have been released by Curzon or Artificial Eye in the past, these remain the same discs that were previously released. So with Satan Tango, the 2 discs here, if you previously owned the 2020 release of this from Curzon, then it is the exact same presentation. For the first time on Blu-ray in the UK, we have Damnation, which is Béla Tarr's film from 1988, I believe it was. And I think this is one of his best films, definitely up there with Werkmeister Harmonies, which I'll talk about in a minute. I think Damnation captures a lot of what Béla Tarr was doing in Satan Tango, but in a much shorter runtime. It has a lot of these signature camera moves that Béla Tarr uses, where you will be looking at the frame and you will see, for example, a cable car in the distance, and the camera will move back and you realize that you've been watching this through a window, and it will reveal more of the interior. And I think Béla Tarr is so great at placing an individual or a number of characters in an environment, and just watching the way that they move, the way the camera moves, is enough to tell us about how these people live and what they are going through. Perhaps a bit like how Antonioni uses locations and the positions of characters within architecture to evoke a certain feeling of despair and loneliness. Let's move on. We've got Werkmeister Harmonies. This is from a 4K restoration, just like Satan Tango and Damnation. And the film does look stunning from this 4K restoration. And I think this is his best film. All things considered, I think Werkmeister Harmonies is Béla Tarr's best film. Now at this point, it's also worth mentioning that we have this here. This is Werkmeister Harmonies on a 4K disc from Curzon that is releasing at the same time as this box set. This 4K disc is using the same restoration that's on the Blu-ray in the big box set. However, the film has its own 4K disc, and I think the film looks beautiful on the 4K disc, but it also looks beautiful in the box set. So I would say that unless this is a film that you have a deep admiration for, perhaps it's one of your favourite films, then if you're getting the box set, you might not necessarily need to get this as well. This also has artwork from Paul West on the slipcover, and inside you have the standard case which has reversible artwork. So you can have this kind of style, or behind the 2 discs here is the same artwork that is on the slipcover. It's a phenomenal film, so whether you get the 4K release or you just stick with the Blu-ray that is in this box set, it is fantastic and well worth seeking out. Of the other films that you get in the set, you get Family Nest, which is Béla Tarr's first feature film from the late 1970s, and you get The Outsider. And these 2 films, this is before Béla Tarr has fully established his style and his voice in cinema. Definitely it begins with Damnation, where you start to see the kind of through line from Damnation to Satan Tango to Werkmeister Harmonies. I much prefer when we're fully into Béla Tarr mode in these later films, but it is fantastic to have them included here, particularly to see the evolution of the filmmaker. And over here you've got The Man from London. This is the first time the film is being released on Blu-ray here in the UK, and perhaps in the world. I don't know if this has a release anywhere else. It looks fantastic on the Blu-ray, and this is almost Béla Tarr approaching film noir. The film opens at this harbour and someone sees someone else being killed, and there is a handover involved, and it all feels very noirish, especially because of the incredible black and white cinematography. that we've become used to by this point, having seen all of these other great films. So The Man from London is a real highlight of this box set for me. I thought it was a fantastic presentation and a fantastic film. And then we come to The Turin Horse. This is Béla Tarr's final film. He hasn't made a film since then. So it kind of feels like the end point of a filmography. The film is probably Béla Tarr's most philosophical work and perhaps the most bleak. So it definitely feels fitting to watch this one last out of the box set. I'd recommend just watching it in chronological order, but I suppose you could do whatever you want with it. And something else to mention is that across all of these discs, you will find other feature films from Béla Tarr in the special features, although these are in standard definition only just because of the state that those films are in. And there is a variety of short films across these, and the special features there are conversations with Béla Tarr himself, which are very insightful and great to listen to. And then I suppose we just have one more thing to look into. There is an envelope inside the box, and let's see what you get in here. So you get a 60-page book, which again has the Paul West artwork on, and then inside there are some essays from various collaborators on this release, and there is information at the back of this about all of the films that are included, such as runtimes, etc. This was a great edition. I really loved reading everything in here, and it's great to be able to reflect on the films and hear what someone else is thinking about these films, because there is a lot to think about. I mentioned the Rorschach test image that I was reminded of on the artwork here. These are films that you could probably take a variety of different things from, and that makes for great conversation and great reading of essays. And then lastly, you get a variety of different posters, which if you wanted to put up in your home or your office, then these are perfect. The first one is this Turin Horse poster. There is a Satan Tango poster. There is one of the Paul West artwork that is on the box set. And then there's one of Paul West's Whale from Werkmeister Harmonies. So that is a look at the Curzon Collection Béla Tarr Complete Filmography on Blu-ray. I think this is a fantastic box set, although with the asterisk that you have to be a fan of the filmmaker's works to fully enjoy this set and find it rewarding like I did. I have only very briefly talked about the films contained in this set, but hopefully in the future I'll get a chance to talk about these at length, perhaps in podcast form where I can, really get into the nitty-gritty of what these films are. But hopefully I've given you a bit of an idea as to whether this is something that you would like to get or not. I'll include some purchasing links in the description of the video, which if you want to use, they help support this channel at no additional cost to you. So thank you if you do so. And if you want any more information about this box set or these films, then please feel free to leave a comment on this video and I would happily help you with any questions you have. Or you can also head over to Curzon's website to find out more of the technical information of this set. Same with the 4K disc of Werkmeister Harmonies, by the way. I forgot to mention that right now. So I've been very happy with these releases. It's been a real journey working through all of the films in this set, and I think I have come out of the other end feeling much more enriched. So with all of that said, if you would like more reviews or recommendations from myself, just click the video that's presented on screen right now. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.